Hey y'all. So I wanted to start a a live video kind of based around the my story that I was talking about. Oh, and of course my voice wants to do this. Around probably because this is hard for me to say all of these things out loud about my herpes, about all the injuries that I've been sustaining lately, and about all of these really interesting, I'm literally talking about what we talked about last night, all of these things that I've been noticing that I didn't really understand and try to understand until now, but I'm very much feeling like I need to address it because it's asking me to at this time. So I've had as many people have, a lot of ups and downs in my life, and part of the up and the down has been, being accepted into whatever program that I chose to challenge myself. I'm like a pick your own challenge kind of person where I'm all about like growing and becoming the best version of myself. Sorry, you guys see like a bunch of red things on me because I was outside earlier and I have mosquitoes on me or something. But I thought this would make for a good modern magic for the basic witch episode, because all of these tragic ups and downs happen for most people for a reason, right? I mean, not for most people. I believe that they happen for a reason, and for most people, we generally believe that it happens for a reason, right? There are some people who have the opinion that, shit happens, get over it, and they don't really look into it. They don't, dive any deeper than that, which is totally fine. It's 100%, your prerogative and your choice to examine the energetic shifts in your life. However, I have been examining because I recently hired a coach, and I really wanted to tap into all of the energetic shifts that I haven't been looking at and see what's out there for me, see why all of these shifts have moved me in different directions. And one of them that I noticed on this kind of like life map, which is kind of like the heartbeat monitor where it's like boop, 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 and it goes up and down, like, off the baseline or whatever. It's kind of like that, and it shows the high points in my life, including the moment my sister was born, including the moment I was accepted into University of Florida, including finding out that I was accepted to join City Year, which I thought was just like dream job, like one of the best moments of my life. As well as some of the worst, when my brother took his life, when my aunt, who is one of my soulmates, passed away, got sick and passed away. So there are just a couple of things, including my herpes diagnosis, as well as creating this new baseline that wasn't just like average, like between like super happy and like super sad about something. It created this new baseline that like dropped down, that was like, this is your new like baseline for the most happy that you could be, because once I found out that taking it back a step, my boyfriend had broken up with me, and I just was like, this was the person that I thought I was going to live, the experience the rest of my life with. And that kind of caused like my baseline to shift a little bit. And then once I found out that I had herpes, it also caused the baseline to shift quite a bit more. And it's interesting how when I look back on like the happy moments and the high points during those times, they're never quite as high or as happy as pre-herpes diagnosis, because there was just something about it. There was just something about feeling like it had changed my life forever, that really caused me to have this just below the surface depression. And I look back on it wondering like, what was the purpose of this? And now that I'm getting all of these injuries to my root chakra, which, is like the very base of your chakras, and it's like, your tailbone, the end of your spine, as well as your perineum, like the very center of your body. So it's like the skin that is between your genitals and your anus. Sorry if this is like weird for me to be saying this out loud, but that's the truth. That's where the root chakra is at the very center, bottom point of your central body area, as well as like, the base of your feet. So oh my gosh, wow, that just totally triggered like another realization too, that I've like had feet issues as well. And being a Pisces, that is generally where Pisces feel the majority of their shifts, as well as like, for Pisces, a lot of our emotional energy resides in our feet. A lot of like, whenever there's something wrong with us, we can feel it in our feet. Like, I wish that I had somebody, like when I have an intimate partner, I'm going to ask them to be rubbing my feet pretty much on the daily, because that is something that like, I just feel like I wish I had somebody to rub my feet as I fall asleep kind of thing. Because I feel like that's like the one thing that I just need it out. So, wow, so interesting. So my root chakra, since I was a kid, has been receiving a lot of energetic shifts in the experience of like when I was like 8 or 9 years old. I was on a swing that broke, and it hurt my tailbone, and it hurt like my lower back, the bottom of my spine. I've always had things going on with my feet. I was a dancer, and I hated softball. I would have rather have been in soccer. I wanted to be using my feet and using my legs, using my lower body. I feel like the root chakra has a lot to do with your roots, has a lot to do with stability and grounding. And it's like when something good happened, I got accepted into the University of Florida. A couple of days later, my brother had died, and it was kind of like the rug had been ripped out from under me. Like, haha, you think you're gonna get everything in life. Like, you have this amazing boyfriend, you have this awesome new job, you have, you just, graduated early, you got accepted into a university that you thought you would never be good enough for. And in exchange, we have to rip away one of your siblings. So I think it's just like caused this feeling of instability of like, no matter how good it gets, it'll never be quite as good as you think that you could have it. And it's it's very much tied to, I wonder what was going on when I was, when the swing broke for me. What kind of energetic stuff that I was taking in that happened. Because, like, I experienced pain from that for years afterward. And then I, was starting to get my confidence back, dating, and not so much dating, but kind of sleeping around with people, after my breakup. And then I, started to experience, herpes, and it's like, even when you think it's getting better, it's actually not. So it feels very much like, whenever we have something that shifts our baseline and shifts our normal, my mom hurt her tailbone as a child. She experienced sexual abuse. Yeah, I mean, like, I have these, maybe not flashbacks from my life, because I can't know if they're from my life unless I do like an age regression. But I have this vision when I connect to, when I connect to one of our family members, who is my dad's cousin. My sister and I have just always, like, even now, I feel like I'm being choked. I feel like I feel like anxiety, like really high anxiety, is coming up. We just get really bad vibes from him, and vibes don't lie. Like my friend Janice says, vibes don't lie. And I was telling my mom about it one day, and she was like, yeah, I mean, he's a good guy. He means well. And I was like, Mom, you cannot say that to me right now. That might be your experience, but both Jenna and I feel like something is off. Something is fucked up about this person. We don't want to be around him. We don't want to be touched by him. We don't want to, we don't want to fake it around him, because there's something funky going on there. And I did a meditation one night to kind of talk to spirit about, like, what it is that, weirds me out about him, because, like I said, your intuition is so powerful, and you don't have to know where the information comes from. You just have to acknowledge that it's there and trust that it's coming from something. You don't have to know. You don't have to, know everything in order to understand that your intuitive gut instinct is real and true. And when it tells you to run, you need to listen. So I did a meditation one night just asking, like, what is in my dad's cousin's past, this guy who is just so, he's so nice on the surface, and yet I just can't, anyway, so I I did the meditation. I'm like getting caught up in like the ick, and I haven't even seen him in like a months, and I still am just so icked. And what I basically got is that he has sexually abused an infant. The only way that I can describe it is that I got this visual sensation of like him putting his hands on a baby girl's genitals and inside a baby girl's genitals. And the feeling was that it was out of curiosity, but it was also maybe like, I think maybe I can just feel his shame. I think I can feel like the stickiness of his shame that's like sticks on to everything, and every single, young woman who he knew as a child, because he's had those thoughts and he's had those, like impulses toward them. I don't know if it was me. I don't know if I saw it. I don't know if it was my sister. I don't know if it was, someone else in the family. I don't know if it was his daughter. I don't know. I really don't know who it is. But just when you said just now, like about your mom experiencing, what was it? Hurting her tailbone and having experienced sexual abuse. I don't remember any sexual abuse as a child. Like, I was a happy kid, and, if I experienced it, then it is buried way deep, and I have not, it hasn't risen to the surface at all. But at this point, I feel like there is something about stability for me, and maybe it was moving when we were younger wasn't that big a deal. And I think about how, every single thing, once I became an adult, was all about, moving and changing addresses and, even getting evicted, from my apartment in Miami was another shifting of my roots that just was I was just, yanked out. And I really, I'm in the midst of processing why, this tailbone injury that I sustained as a kid, all of this yanking of my physical, actual environmental roots, and the, contracting herpes, as well as just recently, going to the roller rink by myself, my first time doing any kind of activity by myself, just for the joy of it. I got fucking wiped out, and I fell on the area that I injured as a kid. Right on it. And I got so afraid. That's where all of my tears that night came from, was just the fear that I had reopened this wound, that I had re-triggered whatever, crazy painful experience that had happened. And it was so weird. Did I say I was around kids? Yeah, at the roller rink. It was, there were a bunch of kids there. And it was this, how when you're at a roller rink, it's it goes like this, and all of the exits are kind of on the outside of one side. Instead of kids gradually getting onto the wall and getting themselves out, or gradually making their way toward the outside, they just cut straight across so that they can exit the roller rink, right? So this little girl was cutting straight across in front of me to exit the roller rink, and we both fell down. And it was are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Are you okay? I felt whiplash in my back, but I was nah, I'm just gonna skate it off. And I just kept going, and it was the very last song that they were playing before they were gonna do the age skate, which is everybody who's above the age of 18 gets to have their own time out there or whatever. And it was the last song, and I was I might as well just get off the floor, because they're about to shift, and I'd rather just take my skates off and leave before all that happens. And then I was wait, I really like this song. I haven't heard this song in a while. So I stayed. And of course, it was another one of those people just cutting straight across. This girl cut straight across, and I had nowhere else to go, and I got knocked straight on my ass. And when you fell as a child, were you alone or with kids? When I was on the swing that broke, that caused my tailbone injury, I was with people. I don't remember who exactly was there. If I feel like my mom and dad were present, but I don't know if they were outside at the time. And I feel like it might have been one of my friends, like, had been pushing me. Somebody had been pushing me because I was, like, swinging really high. Or somebody was there with me. There might have been, my best friend, who was also my neighbor that lived down the street, and maybe my sister. But I don't remember. I just remember, like, eventually my dad being there and either helping me up or carrying me inside or something. I don't remember if if it had anything to do with, like, other kids being there. It was really just, like, me being on a swing that broke. So it was really interesting it's really interesting to connect all the dots between, all of these, like, these injuries and all of these, oh my gosh, and, like, 2 of the times out of the 4 times that I've been stung, 3 out of the 4 times that I've been stung by a wasp, I've been stung by wasps 4 times. 3 of those times was on the bottom of my foot, was on my foot. So I'm just, like, making a connection between all of these injuries that I've sustained to my root chakra that have been telling me, like, I need to access this energy and do some kind of clearing, do some kind of cleansing, and I'm kind of, like, scared to figure out what it is and to know. But I'm also so open and, like, willing to go there because I would like to feel like when I start eating a raw diet again in order to manage my herpes outbreaks, because that has helped me and has worked before for me. I would really like to feel like there's not something else fighting me in my root chakra, that there's not some other energy that's, like, fighting my desire to heal that space. And I just feel like there's a reason for everything. Like I said, I just, there's a magic to the energy shifts that we experience. And it is not for no reason that there are certain people who get herpes, that there are certain people who are partnered with other people who have herpes, whether that their partner knows it or not. They are capable of transmitting herpes to their partner, at various times throughout their life, and yet there are people who are in those relationships who they can go years, they can go their whole relationship without passing it from one person to the other. So what makes one person's root chakra so weak that it is susceptible to receiving the herpes virus, and the other person's root chakra so strong that it's like, nah, no matter what, it's not going to affect me. Like, where does that come from? And also, how can I activate my root chakra in a way that empowers me and creates stability? Is that, like, my one space that is, like, my constant, my, like, lifelong struggle? Is that my thing? Because, like, I haven't slept, so it's interesting. So pointing out, like, I haven't slept with a lot of people. I've slept with, I think, 14 people in the 10 years that I've been sexually active. And there's also somebody else who I know from college who was my roommate, and my other roommate and I would count the amount of people that she was, sleeping with, and we got up to like 35 or 36, and we stopped because it was just like so many. And I saw her recently, and she shared with me that out of one experience that was traumatic for her recently, after a sexual assault that happened like a year ago or less, that is when she contracted herpes. So, like, what was it about the strength of her root chakra at the time that she was, like, fucking all these people that, was so stable for her that it's like it wasn't a part of her experience, that all of a sudden something shifted and she energetically, manifested this life-changing experience of, like, now you're going to have this virus for the rest of your life. Thousands! Yeah. I believe I can sleep with people and not get sick even if they are. Wow, that's something I never realized I believed. Yeah. I have tons. And see, like, I was afraid of it, but I, like, was more afraid of getting pregnant. I think that was where I was having that mindset of, like, as long as I don't get pregnant and as long as I ask if they have anything, like, it won't really matter because, they'll tell me if they've been tested and they have something, right? Like, and yet I was the one who, like, had never really gone to be STD tested except, like, one scare when I was with my boyfriend, and it was just weird. It was weird circumstances. But yeah, it's so I'm finding that there's a reason for everything, and I would almost love to make this, like, a scientific study, like a research study of, like, people doing their life maps to see what the stability in their life has looked like, as well as figuring out what the tendency for injury has been in their lives, to see if it's been their feet, if it's been their lower back, if it's been their spine, if it's been, like, if it's been all of the stuff that's where the root chakra lives, that, oh gosh, my injury is still, a little bit tweaked, but, see if there is some kind of correlation, to see if there's some kind of connection between people who have contracted herpes and the injuries that they've sustained in the past that have been telling them, like, you need to be focusing on your root, you need to be focusing on your root chakra, as well as, like, I need to look more into what the root chakra does, because the only thing that I connect it to is stability anyway. So I believe most teens fear pregnancy more than disease. They fear the consequences of sex, but not enough. And they also have not been educated enough about how to prevent those consequences, or even what triggers those consequences. Because, like, herpes, you can pass on herpes even when you're using a condom. Even when somebody's not having an outbreak, there's no visible or, experienced symptoms at the time, there's still the shedding of the virus, and you could be wearing a condom and still pass it on to somebody else. But my thing is, like, that person has to have a weak root chakra or a weak, lower body immune system as well, because it's really interesting that, like I said, there are people who go for years with their partners without ever, contracting herpes. So I feel that there is innately a magic to all of the things that we have stigmatized and all of the things that we have experienced, like major shifts in our lives. all of the things around which that we've, experienced these shifts, because I cannot believe that it's for no reason. I cannot believe that this pattern would occur over and over again. Like, I don't know. I'm just like wondering if, like people who have really dramatic relationships, or have really dramatic heartbreaks, like heartbreaks and breakups in their lives, also experience like heart problems and heart palpitations, or have heart murmurs, or like it just opens up all of these other questions that I have. And in order for us basic witches to understand a little bit more about our modern world and the modern way that we view magic, as opposed to just like in a room with candles lit and, incense burning, and salting things, salt circles and pentagrams and stirring cauldrons and shit like that. Like the modern examination of how we view magic is so different now. And I think a huge part of that is really addressing that everything does happen for a reason, and that these patterns exist for us to notice them, for us to like see it once or twice and be like, this is a thing, and the third time like, okay, I need to figure out what the fuck this is. I mean, it's taking years. It's taken years for me to even recognize, like it's taken me up until this day to recognize that there is a pattern. And up until, the moment of like this weekend when I got this fucking injury at the skating rink, where I thought, like I'm good at this shit. Like I'm not going to fall. And if I do, it'll be fine. Like I'll be fine. And it really took up until this point to recognize that there is a pattern, and that there has to be something within me that is asking to be seen, that is asking to be recognized, so that I can grow and heal from it. Because, otherwise, like, there's always going to be a barrier. There's always going to be that obstacle there, of not being able to really live to my fullest potential. Because if your root chakra is about stability, then it really causes you not to make, not to surrender to the choices that you want to make. It really makes you feel fear toward losing control, or it makes you feel like you need to be concerned about every single little thing that might disrupt your comfort. And that's what I'm experiencing now, is like I'm in such a comfortable situation, and yet like there's something about it that's like throwing me off and making me want to like leave. Like there are so many little things that have started bugging me in my comfort zone that I know that it's telling me it's time for me to move on. It's time for me to, expand outside of that comfort zone. And the magical energy of like, it's time for you to level up. It's time for you to get uncomfortable. It's time for you to be a little less stable in what has been making you comfortable, and find stability within yourself. Find confidence in yourself. Find worthiness in yourself, and reliance on yourself to make you feel stable, as opposed to, relying on all of these other things and other people and other, relying on, just specifically where you are and your surroundings to keep you safe. There really is a magical flow of energy that feels like love, that feels like you're okay when you try this. You'll be okay when you try this, when you try something different, when you try something new, when you get outside of it, because that's where you're really meant to be. Like when we stay in one place for too long, we start to deteriorate. We start to, it's kind of like if you, it's like the use it or lose it theory, which is like if you don't use the languages that you learn, you start to lose all of your memories of it. If you don't use your memories of your childhood, then you start to lose them. If you don't use the skills that you have, like, being able to do like the leg crossover turn, while you're roller skating, you start to lose it. And so you have to practice it until you get to the point where you're so comfortable that you are able to level up and you're able to recognize that, like, love energy doesn't want you to stay exactly where you are. And once you recognize the patterns that are begging you to push yourself outside of it and move and level the fuck up, we start out in a space of fear because there's not comfort there anymore. But the magic of moving outside of your comfort zone and leaving the things that you thought you needed to trust and to feel assurance that you will be safe, once you start to move outside of those things, that's where the magic happens. That's where you start to manifest all of the things that you've been wanting, but you've been too afraid to really believe in yourself and have assurance in yourself that you can get there. Return to yourself and ask to forgive and say thank you, that you love yourself. This is the secret of healing. Yeah, I'm gonna read a couple because I was like on a thing for a second. Yeah, you feel everything you wanted in the past, and it's totally a mindset. It means that your mind has been set in one place, and once you can shift your mind into another place, then everything else moves with it. All of the flow of energy that you feel in your life just completely moves with it and supports it. So I would love to hear from my basic witches about what it is for you that might be coming up for you as a pattern in your life. And it could be injuries, it could be issues with your gut, it could be mental health issues or mental illness. It could be any kind of disease, or even like hair loss, because I'm thinking about like what would it mean if your crown chakra was blocked and your crown chakra needed assistance. It might be that you get cancer and you lose all of your hair and you're like, you have this obsession with your hair and now you need to lose it all so that you can start to rely more on yourself and less on the external to make you feel resilient and to make you feel sure of yourself, make you feel confident. I'm trying to think of other things, but yeah, I feel like this is one of those beautiful moments for me where I just appreciate you all for joining me in the expression of this desire to understand, this desire to know more, this desire to tap into my intuition and tap into the unknowing in order to experience more of what, love energy is guiding me toward. And that is a part of, the modern access point that we carry to magic. The previous access points, were in covens where you needed a lot of people around to help you raise your vibration. And now, not only are we reconnecting as humans around, our sensitivity, and we're reconnecting around like our own personal magic. But I think we're also starting to recognize that like we are our own coven too. Like we have to start with ourselves, and we have to start recognizing that we have our own patterns in our journals and in our diaries and in, the voice memos that we leave to ourselves and in our past Instagram account, shit. It's like, what was that for? What is the pattern that's surfacing there? And how can you best acknowledge the space that it's coming from? I love you all. I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful rest of your day. Please let me know if anything came up for you. Please let me know if there are any patterns that you feel you've experienced lately or that you've had in your life, or that maybe have come up for you just in the course of me talking about my experiences, because I would love to get some more feedback on like I said, like I want to do an experiment now. Everything turns into an experiment for me, where I want to figure out like how true something really is. And yet that's the opposite of intuition, right? Intuition is just believing it whether you can see it or not. So interesting. Anyway, love you. You are deserving of all the love you desire, and I will see you all later on Free Reading Friday. Oh, actually, tomorrow I'll be having a conversation, and maybe I'll ask Courtney about this, but I'll be having a conversation with Courtney Brame of Something Positive for Positive People podcast, as well as he is H on my chest on Instagram. I'm going to be having a conversation with him live, and we're just going to be chatting it up. And maybe this is one of the things that I'll ask him about is, all of his past injuries, and see if they're related to his root chakra, because he also has herpes. So it's like, really nice now that I have a community of people to recognize that like I'm not the only one, I'm not alone. And that's what's wonderful about this modern magic for basic witches is like all of us modern witches can get together and recognize like we don't have to hide it, we don't have to be ashamed of our magic and of believing in ourselves and in our magic. We can just rely on each other to support each other and feel like, I'm not alone. I'm not in isolation. Truly, I love you. You're deserving of all the love you desire. I'm really going now. Bye, y'all.